Welcome to the MLB Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and The Lines, coming to you from the West Coast, fresh off of my hiatus there. Josh Lander, joined by my guys, Mo Noir in the Midwest. We got Nate Weitzer on the East Coast, and we are back in full swing. At least I am. These guys have been around for a while. I am being welcomed back by a very large Thursday night slate here, a few extra games than we're actually used to seeing. So we will jump into some of our best bets in this one. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. Continue to follow along with us as we are bringing you these videos each and every weekday of this MLB season. As always, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to FDPicks.com or DKPicks.com. Find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for tonight. Nate, let's jump into those lines.
Yeah, big slate, like you said, 10 night games on a Thursday, skipping over that Cubs-Reds afternoon game. We got Yanks minus 125 at Tampa, Colorado in a toss-up at Washington, Cleveland plus 120 at Detroit, Phillies toss-up at Atlanta, nice pitching matchup there with Nola versus Kyle Wright. The Royals are plus 150 at Minnesota, Brewers plus 108 at St. Louis, Red Sox toss-up at White Sox, despite Dallas Keuchel going for Chicago. Hyunjin Ryu and Shohei Ohtani battle at the Angels Stadium. The Halos minus 168 at home there. Dodgers big favorites at Arizona minus 186. And then the enigma that is Martin Perez and the Rangers are plus 108 at Oakland. So that's a game we're going to touch on, but I want to lead off by trying to pick on Patrick Corbin and the Nationals here. Mr. 0-7 with that 6.60 ERA and a matching xERA. Just continues to get hammered more and more each year. I mean, his home run fly ball ratio had nowhere to go but down after 22.5% last year. But his hard hit rate is now up at 48%. Nearly half of the contact coming off Corbin is hard hit. His fastball has rated about -11 the last 3 years, and people are not chasing his breaking pitches. His swinging strike rate and outside the zone swing rate is down. And it's mostly about the matchup for me here. The Rockies, we've talked since the beginning of the season, since they added Chris Bryant and CJ Cron, are even more of a lefty killing lineup here. And Connor Joe now setting the table as well. They lead the league with a 308 batting average against lefties. I mean, put that on your Coors Field run factor if you want. That's not really just based on that. I mean, and they have a very low K rate as well against the platoon. And I am looking at the Coors Field splits in terms of their starter, German Marquez, who has a much better xERA than his 6.4 ERA. He's got a high home run to fly ball ratio, but has not allowed a bomb in either of his road starts against good offenses at Philly, at Arizona, also good hitters parks. Yet he held those offenses relatively in check with not a lot of hard contact. Did give up a few earned. He's been somewhat unlucky with that 360 BABIP, but he's been aggressive in the zone, 63% first strike rate, 6% walk rate. This Nationals lineup you can be aggressive with aside from Juan Soto. So I think the Rockies money line at even money here is a great bet. I think over 4 runs for the Rockies is a great bet, given how bad Corbin has been consistently and how tough this matchup is for him.
Yeah, I could see some over 4 runs being in play here. Corbin, I think he's been pretty unlucky. I think you're actually a little bit overselling how bad he is. He's got like a 2-run split between his estimators and his actual like 6.XX ERA, whatever it is. But then again, it was like that last year. So I'm also just like, maybe they're missing something about the way he's pitching. I'm actually really interested in German Marquez, though. Really don't know what's going on with him. 3.76 Sierra and 3.57 xFIP. So when you look at some of his estimators, you're like, oh, he's pitching great. He's just a little bit unlucky. But then I'm looking, his K percent is the worst of his career. His swinging strike rate hasn't been this bad since his rookie season. His called strike rate is the worst of his career. Exit velocity and barrel rate are not the worst of his career, but they're pretty bad. And I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And then I'm looking through his pitch values, and it looks like it's like all fastball driven. His fastball's been destroyed this year. I tried to figure out what was going on there, but the only thing I can see in his heat map is he's throwing it a little bit higher than he normally does. So his fastball command has never looks like it's been the best. He's always living kind of in the middle of the zone. And then, it's weird because like when I'm looking at his splits, he's not that much worse in Coors this year. I thought I was going to see something when I saw he's only had, I think, 2 road games and 6 home games. So I was like, oh, well, he's probably just getting wrecked in Coors, but he's been terrible on the road too. So just 2 pitchers I really don't want to bet on, and just, I really would like to see something better from Marquez. I've been a big believer in him in the past. So just can't touch either one of these guys really right now, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you take the over. You're betting against both of them at that point, right? So I think that's at least the bet that we have to go with. I think Patrick Corbin's trying to tell us what he is at this point. To your point, Mo, there's a few things you might consider for him as potential, room for positive regression. But that's assuming that you still think that he's the pitcher that he was 4 years ago. And I think they're just going to continue to have him chew up those innings for them, as it seems like the Nationals would love for this season to be over. So they're really just going to continue to throw a guy out there that they're not really concerned about resurrecting his career at this point, and keeping him for the future. So why not just continue to have him waste those innings? I mean, he went for 8. He gave up 3 only in that 8 inning, which is pretty good for him this season so far. The last time out against Colorado, but I still think those Colorado bats will be coming to play against him. And, likewise, I think the same, at least Washington should be able to take a bit of advantage of Marquez if you believe in that ridiculously bloated ERA right now. But moving on to another game with, a few better pitchers, but still probably some runs, I think, as we're looking at that central matchup, Milwaukee and the Cardinals. We got the Cards at minus 125, as you mentioned, Nate, at the top. Total runs here, we got 7.5. Waino going against Eric Lauer. Still Waino trucking along at age 40. What are we looking for in this one? I think we're starting with runs, Nate. Is that where you lean?
I would lean under in this game. I mean, the way Wainwright pitches, the way the Cardinals defense plays behind him, I know they've gone under pretty consistently in his starts. And I'm leaning towards the Cardinals at home, though, because it's another situation where they're actually the second best team against lefties behind the Rockies. And Lauer has been missing a lot of bats with that 11.6 K per 9 ratio, but allows a lot of hard contact, very low ground ball rate. The Cards, like I said, they have those lefty killers in Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt right in the heart of that lineup. They have the 4th lowest K rate against lefties. They swing at a lot of pitches out of the zone, but they also have the 4th highest contact rate out of the zone and the best WOBA against lefties at 377. So I like them to win a relatively low scoring game. I don't think Wainwright's going to give up more than 2 or 3 earned to this Brewers lineup, which is very unimpressive. Probably more 2 or less, a quality start machine at home. He's 7-3 with a 2.84 ERA. His last 12 home starts, he allowed 14% or lower hard contact in recent matchups against the Royals and Pirates. He's at 27% hard hit rate for the season. Best ground ball rate in years for Waino. I mean, you mentioned it, Josh. He's 40 years old. He knows how to pitch at this point, and I think he understands the difference in the baseball too, and that's why he's been able to get a lot more grounders, navigate deep into these games. And when you have a defense like that behind you, you can put the ball in play and feel confident. So Cardinals money line or Cardinals parlay with the under I put in the article at Play Picks is plus 240 almost. I kind of like that juice you can get there if you parlay the two.
Well, it's interesting because I'm a little bit tempted by the over, but also I really respect these pitchers quite a bit. But the Cardinals, they're just so right-handed, and so it makes sense. They've actually been, so if you take away the Coors factor and just look at weighted runs created, they've been so far above every other team. It's actually comical against lefties. They have a 147 WRC plus. I mean, that's not going to stick, but I was watching the Cards the other day, and the commentary team called Goldschmidt one of the all-time greatest lefty killers, one of the best in the history of baseball, they called him. I mean, it's not that crazy. He's been I think his career number is over 150 WRC plus. And then Eric Lauer has a huge split historically, 348 WOBA allowed against right-handed bats and 308 when he has the platoon advantage. So that's pretty big. But that being said, he's been incredible this year. So it's really hard to fade him in any sort of fashion, whether you click the Cardinals or click the over. It's tough. I mean, his swinging strike rate went up 2%. He's got a 2.52 Sierra. I mean, even though batters are making some decent contact against him, even his StatCast number, which is supposed to ding him for that, he's got a 3.39 xERA. So he's just been great. And Adam Wainwright just keeps doing it. Just kind of like same as Rich Hill, basically. I'm looking at these guys' numbers and they're just so funny. They can't get anyone to swing and miss, but they just get so many called strikes that they can survive. And basically the reason I was looking at the over is just basically both teams are facing the handedness of the pitcher. They hit much, much better. So Cardinals are much better against lefties. Brewers are much better against righties. But I mean, in that stadium with these pitchers, I don't actually think I can actually bet on it, but it's definitely something I'd be looking at. But it's tough because these teams are just so good at run prevention.
Yeah, I would agree, but I would start there with the splits in terms of, St. Louis, as you mentioned, crushing that left-handed pitching. Same as you mentioned, Mo. It's the same case here for Milwaukee. I'm not exactly in love with their lineup this season so far either, but I mean, against right-handed pitching, they are fourth in some pretty major power offensive categories there. Giving it, the Wainwright there, actually, interestingly enough, playing against this Milwaukee Brewers team, he's actually played against this lineup a decent amount at this point, with a pretty bad opponent batting average, I believe up about 275 or so against the players he's faced in this Brewers lineup that he'll be going up against. So there is a bit there. I would still lean St. Louis to both your points and feel good about it, but I do think that there's going to be some runs to be scored on both sides, and it's worth maybe a little bit of juice there. So let's finish things off in the AL West. Mo, I'm going to kick it to you there, as you do love to talk about our guy Martin Perez taking on Frankie Montas there in Oakland. We got a total of 7 runs, even on the money line there for the Rangers. So where are you starting here with this one?
Well, I haven't fired on this one yet, but I'm definitely looking at the under. I tried to fade Martin Perez several times early in the year on this show. People might remember that one. I'm on board now. I mean, what can you say? I keep calling him Goat Martin when I talk to my buddies about him. 0 home runs allowed this year. That's kind of ridiculous. I never really want to believe in a breakout like this from a pitcher we have a massive, he's been around like 10 years as just a mediocre pitcher, but I do somewhat believe in his improvement. I was looking through his numbers. So the big change he made was basically he bumped his sinker percent from he threw it 25%. Now he's throwing it 40. And it's well, throw your best pitch more. Probably a good adjustment. And I'm looking at his pitch values. Only his cutter has been positive outside of his sinker. His sinker is, and that's a recently added pitch. His sinker is the only pitch that's been positive for him for 10 seasons, basically. The A's are okay against lefties, but how good Martin's pitching, and with this change, I think he can probably do a good job against them. And Frankie Montas, he's actually pitching pretty great too. Best Sierra of his career by quite a bit. Even better than that career season he had in 2019 when he had a 2.6 ERA or something. I am a little bit tempted by the Rangers at anything plus, but I'm a little more interested in the under. Just 2 guys who are pitching really, really well and 2 mediocre to bad offenses. I don't trust these bullpens though. The Rangers have bottom 5 FIP, and then both of these teams are below the fold in K minus BB percent, which is usually a good indicator on bullpens because you don't get the inning sample size. Right. So yeah, maybe a first 5 under might be the way.
Yeah, I mean, these pitchers did face off in late April, and the final was 2-0 Texas. So definitely a case for the under with Martin going 6 scoreless innings. I kind of like the Rangers money line more. I mean, you touched on it, Martin just throwing that sinker over and over. That has a lot to do with the baseball here. I mean, we mentioned it a couple episodes ago. He's the kind of guy that can thrive when you're getting a dead baseball with more grounders. His ground ball rate's up 18% from where it was 2 years ago when he was getting hammered. And yeah, the 0 homers, a 3% barrel rate, and facing an A's lineup that's mostly just prospects at this point. I don't know if they're going to have the discipline to lay off that. I lean towards the Rangers because Montas, he's got such electric stuff, but he's young, and that's what you see sometimes when you just trust your stuff and then you just make one big mistake. 20% home run to fly ball ratio against lefties. That's what I'm seeing. Also a high line drive rate against righties. When he does make that mistake, it's a big hit and it's loud contact, and the Rangers have a couple lefties that can really hurt you. So I think at plus money here, let's just keep riding the wave with Goat Martin and see if he can pull out another win.
Yeah, agreed. And the thing about Frankie Montas too is I don't know if he's going to be able to go past, very far past 5 innings or so. And then, now you're talking about, the ball being handed off to a couple of these bullpens that definitely don't trust and can definitely ruin an under very quickly for you. So that is all the time we have for you guys in this one. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. Continue to follow along with us as we are back each and every weekday of this MLB regular season. So until we see you next, happy betting.